Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaram Kandar Ako Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Jami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Jami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Jami Andani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Tiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Jami 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 Govindam Adi Purusham
Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagavani Sarva Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagavani Sarva Pandu Misavadana Pati Pandu Misavadana Yara Prasadi Bahai Himabaduni Aja Yara Prasadi Bhai Himabatoni Krishna Prabhu Hoya Hoite Krishna Prabhu Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padvavakya Chitte Koni Aikya Shri Guru Guru Mukha Padvavakya Chitte Koni Aikya Harana Guri Oba Shri Guru Sharadi Radhi Hesi Udabagaji Ye prasade buri sarva hasha Shakudani ruje chame chame prabhu se Chakunani ruje chame chame prabhu se Devigani de brogasino Devigani de brogasino Prema Yahweh Havina Venasayate Prema Bhakti Yahweh Havina Venasayate Pidenga chahara charido Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Hanumata Narapado Lokina Lokira Jivana Prabhu Gorudoya Deyamone Parachaya Penegani Srudri Bhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavara Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnaya Putare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityadamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Hari Pracharine Deveshesha Shilyabari Paschatyareshatanine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vena Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Veda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya, Astora Shishyamat, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya, Astora Shishyamat, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki. Anantikoti Vaishnavrinda ki. Naam Acharya Slayudas Thakur ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki. Vrindavan Navadip Dham ki. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to His lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By His grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is a perfection, fulfills all desires. He opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From Him ecstatic prema emanates. By Him ignorance is destroyed. The very scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, please be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. His divine loving grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Story Shishimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Story Shishimat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anandikuti Vaishnavrinda Ki Naam Acharya Slaidas Thakur Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन नवदीप धाम की गंगामाय जमुनामाय की भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrta, Volume 4, London, August 1971. London, August 1971. From Florida, this remote corner of the world, Prabhupada returned to New York and after 3 days flew to London. There he became ill. On August 14th, he wrote Tamal Krishna, I am sick here since the last 4 days. There is no sunshine. Almost always there is darkness and rain. So it has affected my health because I am already rheumatic. Prabhupada said, He wanted to retire from traveling and management. This body is old, it is giving warning, but he didn't have sufficient confidence that his leading managers could push on without his pushing them. Prabhupada complained to his secretary, Shyama Sundar, criticizing him and other zonal secretaries for not producing and distributing his books on a large scale. Why are there no books? Prabhupada demanded, and Shyam Sundar cringed. Unable to give a satisfactory answer, Shyam Sundar said he would immediately write to his godbrothers on the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. Why have a book trust? Prabhupada argued. What have they done? There is no stock of big books. There are no literatures in foreign languages after years of promises and plans. Why hasn't the unabridged Bhagavad Gita as it is been printed yet? Well, Shyam Sundar replied, because no, it's your responsibility, Prabhupada yelled. Why haven't you done it? Prabhupada chastised his GBC secretaries around the world through the one secretary before him. The GBC's duties were to see that Prabhupada's books were always in stock, that the Back to Godhead magazine was being published regularly, that accounts were being paid regularly, and that the devotional life in the temples was healthy. Our business is how to expand, said Prabhupada, how to introduce Krishna consciousness into educational circles. Let any philosopher, scientist, or educationist come. We have got enough stock, but this sleeping, this leisurely work will not do. They can learn activity from an old man like me because my determination is like this. If I die working, it is a great credit. Just like a marshal, if he dies on the battlefield, it is his credit. Arjuna was told, even if you die, you're still the gainer. This slow process of printing is the most condemned position. Why should I go on translating when you cannot print? You say retire and translate, but why should I translate? No one will ever see it. I can give you volumes. There is Dai Nippon who will print in Japan on credit, so why don't you print? Always. It is to be done, it is to be done, that's all. And big men complaining, either he goes or I go. This restlessness, this diversion has to stop. When the Father is providing, it is a duty of the Son to serve. I am the Father, I am giving you everything. Why don't you serve me by printing these books? If one book only is read and understood, that is sufficient to make him Krishna conscious. Don't you see how important it is? They are always asking me, in such and such a book, is such and such a book bona fide? They can't even take the time to read one of my books, and still they ask for one of my godbrother's books. How will things go on? First canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is not even edited or corrected. What to speak of printed? So many books unprinted. So tell them, from the book fund, not a farthing should be used for eating. One day Advaita, the manager of ISKCON Press, called from New York with some good news. In a week they would be sending Dai Nippon the negatives for 5 big books. ISKCON Press had also sent a shipment of the German Ishopanishad to Europe, and other foreign language books were forthcoming. Prabhupada was pleased, and Shyam Sundar informed his GBC godbrothers. Needless to say, this was just the medicine required to treat Prabhupada's slackening faith in us. Things are looking up, but still Prabhupada encouraged us all to write up these reports and get a clear all-round picture of the total book situation. Although Prabhupada's health was still weak, he felt heartened to hear that his books were being printed, and he continued with his translation and commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll comment a little bit from what we just read, the urgency of book distribution. And this is like the core of our mission. As often Srila Prabhupada said, this is the backbone of the movement. And sometimes he referred to as the back to Godhead as the backbone of the movement. So Prabhupada was not treating his books as, one department among many. It was not like that. He was treating them as the central vehicle of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. It was the central vehicle. So books, we always say books are so important, and if you want to please me, then distribute my books. And Prabhupada says that if just a person just read one of the book, that is sufficient. But you could see he became angry. He became angry that they were slow at printing. And he was very concerned about, his BBT and massive printing. In fact, he wanted, his books to go more than temple expansion, because the books will do everything. Gradually, people will take to the philosophy, and temples will be established in that part of the world. Because this books is like the Shabda Brahma, the transcendental sound that carries this realization. And the parampara is preserved through written Siddhanta. So we have the books, we can always go through it. So again he spoke a lot about the responsibility of leadership, about the GBC as servant managers. We have to execute the founder's mission. That's why we say founder Acharya. And Prabhupada's frustration, seemingly the way he spoke, he said it here, the way it's recorded here, it's not personal. It's not, it wasn't personal. He just wanted them to push the movement and the leaders to take responsibility as leaders. And what was his expectations? To maintain stock of books, financial integrity, so many different things, healthy sadhana, many, many things he spoke of. Culture in temples, the expansion in the intellectual society, going to the intelligent people, reaching their academics. Because often we concentrate on the mass, but Prabhupada also concentrated on class, not just masses. And then he said, like when the father is providing, it's duty of the son to serve. We read that. So what does it mean? This frames that ISKCON leadership, it's a good topic, ISKCON leadership is not corporate, one. And it's not democratic, but we are service-based. We're meant to do service. Because sometimes we bring in this, because we're coming from the corporate culture, we try to make it corporate. But it won't work. It won't work. There was a very interesting letter, we were establishing the temple in Richards Bay, and I was thinking because these are all new people and, as managers, what should we tell them how to manage the society, or how to manage the center. So there's a very interesting letter by, Prabhupada wrote to Karandar. I think it was 24th November 1972. I think it was around 72 that letter was written. And there, Prabhupada was responding to him. He wrote different things, but he was responding to him. It was a lengthy response. And when we had the first meeting, the devotees, the part of the minutes was that whole letter. How to run the society. Firstly, Prabhupada rejected centralized bureaucratic control. You can't have it centralized. He told him that You should stop all your plans for centralized management structures. You should reject centralization of taxes, finances, all these different bookkeeping systems, credit systems, administrative authority, so many different things. So you should avoid this big corporate mentality. We should avoid that corporate mentality. And the temples, the local temples should be independent. They should be self-sufficient. They should be locally managed. And then the local leaders, they handle the registration, the tax certification, the corporate compliance. All these things are handled by local leaders, the accounting system. And like that, we also put in place all these systems, registration, register the society with directors, and all these. We have to appoint a CA, a chartered accountant, and then we should have full transparency. We should have full transparency. Like after 1 year, we put in the press that you could come and examine the books, and people came and they questioned us, and hoping that they could also give. But you get different types of people. They'll come to see, but anyway, they may give later. But he said, in that letter, he said that only one area should be centralized, and that is the book printing. The book printing, the book distribution system, that could be centralized, like the BBT, it's the heart. But it also functions separately from the movement. It also functions separately. Because if the temples close down, then the BBT functions, and books will be going on and the preaching will be going on. So that's how it's designed. Prabhupada was very intelligent. He was really sharp in all areas, The other thing he spoke in that letter, which was talking about training of competent devotees, like thinkers. And he wanted devotees to be independently thoughtful. That's the words he used. Independently thoughtful, practically capable, responsible, reliable, multi-skills in all departments. So he can be, do services in different areas. Like as a devotee, you'll get different types of services, and you must be able to do all, Like one time I was doing maintenance work here. So although I like all other things, but I was given some maintenance work to do and building. So I got into building. So we must be able to do all types of services. And you'll see how devotees take on responsibilities and they don't know anything about it and they do it. And he wanted he wanted us to protect this bureaucratic culture. Like one authority distributes resources, then what happens to the other person? He becomes like passive dependence. Isn't it? Passive. So we should encourage individual responsibility, initiatives, healthy competition. And this is all described in that one letter. He gave all how to run his society in that one letter. The spiritual standards, then he spoke about the standards like observance of the regulative principles. The core daily standards like 16 rounds, rise in the morning, chant your Gayatri, attend Mangalarti, maintain cleanliness. But the leadership must set the example. It's very important as leaders, we must personally follow strictly. And then we can ensure that the devotees are following strictly. And times, people are not acting according to the prescriptions of ISKCON, then they need to be corrected. So the leader's function is to enforce that the standards are properly maintained and they must be corrected from time to time. And correction in and of itself is not a bad thing. It helps us to grow and improve, provided we are very honest in our correction also. Because generally, people are envious also. And then you have, it's based on envy, right? Sometimes. It's not real correction. You're looking for a fault to find on that person and to belittle him in some way. So that's not good. That's not very good. And he spoke about maintaining preaching enthusiasm. So when the enthusiasm in devotees are declining, then you will also get a lot of complaints and dissatisfaction. Lots of complaints. But the root cause of it is that we are not following the regulative principles. That is the root cause. So how do we build enthusiasm to come to that like spontaneity? We are meant to come to that platform of Raghunath Bhakti. But devotees are, they'll do anything sometime. They'll do all kinds of things. And they are on the Raghunath platform. They'll do things on their own. You notice? They just make their own decisions and do their own things. But there's a process. You have to follow the rules. You have to have a good philosophical understanding. That comes by attending the classes. Then you get a gradual taste and attraction. It's not that, you're already on a spontaneous, loving service platform and you can do any darn thing you want. It's not like that. It's a very gradual process. And Prabhupada spoke about recruitment, training and recruitment. Within that letter, he was talking about do not force people to immediately live in the temple. This we should not do. It's like Radhika Jivan always brings to my attention, it's not a hotel. It's not a hotel. So you immediately follow, 100% of the standards, and this gradually you develop. Then, if people who are living in the temple, this is the responsibility of leader, and so happened that Prabhupada covered all these points in the single letter. He must follow everything very strictly. You're going to get, not everybody is sincere. You'll get few sincere devotees. Few. But you'll get many insincere or temporary devotees. They'll come and go. Do you have that? They come and go. That you have. So we have to adhere to the principles. We should avoid seeking like a comfort-seeking culture. Just I must relax here, get my prasadam, come, from time to time, and that's not what you're meant to do in a temple. And then he describes the true art of management. And what is the true art of management? Managers must inspire voluntary enthusiasm. The second thing he should do, he should create fresh challenges, spiritual challenges. And the third thing is draw out spontaneous sacrifice for Krishna. This is the qualities of a leader. Not running around and doing, just running around and being whimsical and shouting at everybody, do this, do that, and all. That's management. We'll talk about that. But there's a difference between a leader and a manager. Beside the spelling, the leader, he is responsible for inspiring. There's a great difference. Because I was just chatting with Gauranga Prabhu, that people worry more about positions. When they meet, you'll say, what seva? What are you doing? Means what position you have. Tell them, no man, I just clean the garden or something like that. It's a great service. So, know that this is the function of a leader. He should draw out that spontaneous sacrifice for Krishna. He has to take it out from the devotee. But that, when you are non-envious, you can do that. But if you're envious, you can't do that. It's very difficult. So he said you should train more expert managers, preachers, and then he described the role of the GBCs and sannyasis. Now listen very carefully. They must travel, they must inspect standards, they must correct deviations, advise leadership, and report issues that are serious. So that is their role function. They should travel. But it's not that they should be giving class everywhere. That's not their function. Because if you do that all the time, the people who are there, they won't be developed. They'll be just hearing you. Is that not true? But you don't find that. You find that it's different. Therefore, you don't have leaders coming in the movement. So we have to work on leadership. This is all Prabhupada's. I'm not telling my own things. This is all from his letters and his books. And if serious discrepancies occur, then the final correction or authority is required, like the GBC, the ultimate managing authority. But in that letter he said, the conditions. He was speaking about conditions for a bright future. And then he explained that the movement will only thrive if leaders ensure 16 rounds for all, early rising, Mangalarti, and a spirit of voluntary, enthusiastic service. These are the things. And the final warning he gave was absolutely not negotiable. There's no centralization and there's no bureaucracy. Yeah, this was a letter given in December 1972, written to Karanda. And these were the points were discussed. So yes, our BBT is centralized and they produce books and send it all around the world. And we have that situation here. So yes, which is more important, preaching or managing? Anybody? Preaching. Preaching is more important than managing. Yes, and Prabhupada said that to Satsvarup Maharaj in 1971. Just because you are preaching nicely and distributing so much prasadam, the management will follow like a shadow and Krishna will send you no end of help. Then the second one, preaching is our real business. Preaching and mainly distributing books. So if your preaching work is strong, automatically the management and the temple affairs will become very strong. It's quite an amazing way. So we have to preach. Just like if the head wills, the hand will move. So preaching is like the head of our Krishna consciousness movement. And so just like if the head is chopped off, then the whole body dies. But that's why managing is like the hands. But if the hands are chopped off, then the society will be crippled, but it'll go on. It'll go on. So yes, this all Prabhupada spoke about. And an acharya, he leads from the front. And there's a story that it talks about Ranchor. Maybe I should read that first. Okay, it's probably I should just read it. Although Prabhupada's health was still weak, he felt heartened to hear that his books were being printed. And he continued with his translation and commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ranchor, one night, I was up very late, 1 o'clock in the morning. As I came in, I saw that Prabhupada's lights were on in his front room. And I could hear his voice speaking into the dictating machine. I came up the stairs being as quiet as possible I could, so Prabhupada wouldn't know that I was up so late. But as I passed his door, I couldn't resist the temptation to just stop and listen for a while. I tried looking through the keyhole, but I couldn't see anything, so I just listened to Prabhupada's voice. I was dictating Srimad Bhagavatam. Then all of a sudden he stopped. I suppose he was just thinking about what he was going to say next. But then I got the feeling that he knew I was out there listening through the door. I became frightened and went up the stairs as quietly as I could. Although the stairs creaked, everyone is asleep, not only the temple, but practically the whole city of London at 1 o'clock in the morning. But Prabhupada was awake and translating. He had been speaking quietly, but with a voice of great strength and determination. All during the day, he was under pressure to organize things and see people, and yet at night, the one time when he could have some peace and quiet, he was up dictating. So this is quite interesting, that how Prabhupada would stay up all night, and he would take rest for a few hours, maybe a couple of hours, and he would get up in the early hours of the morning and he would translate. But we can see from this example that physical illness did not reduce his service. But that does not mean that we mustn't take care of the body. We'll talk about that. And the night was for translation time, and the daytime was for management, preaching, and meetings. As usual, this is what we do. And Prabhupada said in that, what we read earlier on, that if I die, working, it is credit. So we have to be in the battlefield. Sometimes we pray that we don't get very ill. Sometimes we do pray like that. I hope I be, giving the class and then I leave this world. I hope I'm, very conscious of Krishna. But, Prabhupada was talking about the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 37. What is that verse? When you're killed, you die in the battle, you gain. And if you win, you gain. You win in both situations. Because if you die in the battlefield, you'll go to the heavenly planet. So it's a win-win situation. So he lived this literally. He lived like that. It was always a win-win situation. Early on, Prabhupada was talking about the delays in printing, and he was not happy with all that. But we spoke about that. We won't get into that. I'll just skip and look at how the body is getting old. It's a warning, because when the body is getting old, you cannot do things like you used to do before. Let me skip. So the body is getting old, and we have to take care of the body. So from this, this example that we were seeing, that we read about Ranchor, we see Prabhupada was suffering or in pain, but he was still continuing his work. Last night I was reading this chapter, and I was thinking of, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's magnanimity, or Odorya. And what is the meaning of that magnanimity? What does that mean? What it means? What do you think it means? Magnanimous or magnanimity. What does it mean? Mercy. Boundless, causeless, aggressive mercy. It's not just kindness. Like when you look at Prabhupada was trying to give out books and preach in that fashion and give out the mercy in that way. So from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's perspective, it was not just kindness, it was not just generosity, but a refusal to withhold Krishna prema from anyone. Everybody should get this Krishna prema, this love for Krishna. And that was the main reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come, to give out that mercy. Because there's an urgency, the souls are suffering. One is urgency, it's like a feature. But the meaning is that souls are suffering now. And there's no qualifications required to take to Krishna consciousness. And for the person who just gives, the personal sacrifice, the giver suffers for the receiver. And there's mass distribution, there's not selective giving. So it's very inclusive. Krishna consciousness is for everybody. But how Prabhupada looked at it, Prabhupada's book mission, his mercy was print-based global mercy distribution because of the books. Through the books, everything will go. So Mahaprabhu, he distributed the holy name, through kirtans in the streets, through Harinam. But Prabhupada was a little different, in the sense that he distributed the holy name plus the Siddhanta, means the conclusion, through books globally. That's the difference. That's the difference. And each book is Nam, Rup, Guna, Leela, Siddhanta, and the Parampara Shakti, the disciplic succession. So Prabhupada, like this, went through all continents, as opposed to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who remained in India and spread Krishna consciousness in India. So Prabhupada is an amazing person. He wanted his books to be gone through every town and village and every corner of the world. So when we make parallels between Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada, you could see like Mahaprabhu could not tolerate the condition, suffering of the people. But Prabhupada also could not tolerate books not reaching his people. Reaching the people. Mahaprabhu in the night, night kirtan, they will have night kirtan and no sleep. But Prabhupada, he would have night translation and no rest. And you find that Mahaprabhu, he also collapses at Puri. He collapses in ecstasy. But Prabhupada, while he's translating, he's getting ill and he's getting rheumatic, this sort of disease. And Mahaprabhu was crying out for the fallen souls, but Srila Prabhupada was urgent for pushing his book distribution. And book distribution is a very wonderful service. You go out, distribute books. And quite interesting how much, comparisons. There are many, but I won't speak about all. Like Mahaprabhu was crying out at night, for separation from Vrindavan, but Prabhupada was translating at night for global deliverance. There's so many things, there's so many points about book distribution, and how the different acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta, and Prabhupada, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a global, his vision was, it has to go everywhere. And Bhaktisiddhanta was also, he was trying to print books and establish institutions. But Prabhupada really came and, did the rest. There's a whole thing about how, you can see how, you make a comparison of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Prabhupada's contribution in Krishna consciousness. But I won't get into that, because you'd see that Bhaktisiddhanta was, he was establishing these institutions and preaching in India. But it was only restricted to India, as I said earlier on. And we'll move on, because we've got time constraint, only got 10 minutes more. We often hear the term Brihat Mirdanga, like Bhakti Brihat Bhagavad Swami name. Brihat Mirdanga, he should like distributing books. And we all of you like distributing books? But we should distribute and try to distribute to the other race groups. Like there's 80% of the population is African. So you have to reach them. Like when we go to India or go to other parts of the world, they don't have an idea what is to preach in Africa. No idea at all. Like I had the fortune of printing all these Zulu books for the BBT on 2 occasions. And these books have went everywhere, to schools, colleges. One person sponsored the whole printing of one batch of first print. Like, we did 4 titles, and we were sending these books everywhere. And the businessman who sponsored it, he's late now, but he was very generous, and he wanted these books to go to the African people. But one person read it. And the one person who read it, I met him at a Ratha Yatra 2025. Yeah, 2024, I think. 2024. In 2024, I met him, and he became a devotee by reading that book. So these books have to go into other languages. And that's what Prabhupada was speaking when we initially read about reaching the other people. And he became a devotee. And then we go there, myself, Bilva Mangal, went there to Inanda, which is quite a dangerous place. We went to this place, and we were having our kirtan, we were chanting with them, and they were inspired by this process of Krishna consciousness. And he's like the main leader there now, and he's practicing Krishna consciousness. So yes, there's so much more could be said about book distribution. So although Prabhupada's health was still weak, he felt heartened to hear that his books were being printed, and he continued with his translation and commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is very important. He wanted to fulfill his spiritual master's order. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami instructed him, if you ever get money, print books. So he took this as his service to his spiritual master and his life's mission. Sometimes we hear devotees say books are the basis. What's that term? Books are the basis. Purity is the force. Preaching is the essence, and utility is the principle. So these 4 things, but actually these are not Prabhupada's words. This comes from some giant Japanese, but it applies to ISKCON. Yeah. So books are the basis. So why do we need the books? I said to preserve the Siddhanta intact, to keep the Siddhanta That's why we need the books. And to standardize the teachings globally, must be same standard. And then the continuing guiding after his physical departure, after Srila Prabhupada's departure. So the books, like he said, he would live forever in his books. So yes. So we were talking about Ranchor. He was peeping into that hole and he was looking and he wanted to see what Prabhupada was doing, but Prabhupada was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a nice purport in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first canto, I think, is 1.344. I think it's that verse. It talks about how you can perceive Lord Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Directly, you can perceive him when you hear from a realized soul like Sukadeva Goswami. So when we're reading through the Bhagavatam, is we're receiving that same message. That same message. And the Bhagavatam, and it has to be understood by, or given to us by bona fide teachers, like Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami. Then you can see Lord Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam. Can you imagine when Prabhupada was translating this? Seeing. So we can also realize Krishna in every page in the Bhagavatam. If we follow the parampara. But then there was I read a while back in one of Prabhupada's memories, when Prabhupada was Guru Puja, during the Guru Puja, Srila Prabhupada was singing, and then there was a loud banging coming from the Boga room. Banging. So Srila Prabhupada put down his cartels and he was asking what was the disturbance. Because he's ready to speak his Srimad Bhagavatam class. So a devotee reported there's one devotee sleeping in the room there. In the Boga room. He's sleeping there. Then Prabhupada said, is he a devotee or a demon? Because devotees normally come to hear the class. Is he a devotee or a demon? Anyway, then they summoned the devotee. Prabhupada said, bring the devotee. So they caught him while sleeping, dragged him to the Prabhupada. So he offered his obeisances. And when Prabhupada saw the devotee, he saw him, he was a new devotee. And Prabhupada asked him, are you a devotee or a demon? He said, I think I'm a devotee. I'm a devotee. So then Prabhupada told him to sit in the class, hear the class. But Srila Prabhupada was not heavy with that person, that new devotee, personally. What did he do? He immediately started criticizing the leadership, saying it was dirty, disorganized, and neglectful. He said, prasadam was being wasted and everything was in a messy condition. This is the cause of this type of behavior. Get it? He was talking about the leadership. So these are the leadership lessons we can learn from this incident. Because the leadership are responsible for culture, not for operations. We find people are very busy. You ask them, what are you busy doing? Operations. But that's not the function of the leader. But Prabhupada didn't blame that sleeping devotee. He held the leadership accountable. And the standards must be protected. What are the standards? You must attend the Bhagavatam class, Guru Puja. We have to attend. And correction should be individualized. He was gentle with a new devotee, but he was strong with the leadership. So yes, because like external disorder reflects internal disorder. Correct? Yeah, that's how it is. Dirty management, wasted prasadam, loose standards. So this indicates a weak spiritual focus. Because the leaders must create an environment where devotional practices are natural and expected. So there's many things we can talk about. And then they got into a discussion about preaching to, Western philosophers. Prabhupada got into talking about Western philosophers. Devotees would raise certain points about Socrates and other philosophers, and Prabhupada would comment. And Prabhupada would just use the scriptures to defeat their philosophy in a very nice way. But then Prabhupada's ill health continued. And he was sick. I'll just read this last part and then we can... Shri Gauranga Prabhu, you familiar with Prabhupada's visiting Nairobi? A bit, huh? Because you're talking about Mombasa, he's visited Mombasa, because that's the next part, yeah. Maybe you should just comment a little bit, huh? Prabhupada's ill health continued. I was sick for 4 or 5 days. Now I'm a little better, but the disease is prolonging in a different way. I cannot sleep at night more than 2 hours. And during the day, sometimes I'm feeling dizziness. Otherwise, everything is all right. I'm chanting Hare Krishna as usual and writing my books regularly. So here we see that Prabhupada was still carrying on. He knew that the body as an instrument for serving Krishna. And you have to keep it fit. Just like one devotee, one of Prabhupada's disciples, her name was Kusha Mataji, she's still around. She wasn't, she was cooking. She wasn't able to cook for Prabhupada. After 3 days, she got ill. And then she saw a sign in the kitchen. Health is number 1, chanting is number 2, service is number 3, and reading is in that order, the 4th one. And it was handwritten by Prabhupada and put on the fridge or something like that. It was stuck there. Because there's another devotee, Jadu Rani, when she came, she wasn't taking care of her health and she got sick. And Prabhupada wrote this. And he made that, in that order of preference or importance, we should take care of our health. So we can talk much about it, but next time. But I just want to read this last part about, I was quite interested. One day while meeting with an Indian man, a R.B. Pandya from Mombasa, East Africa, Prabhupada mentioned his illness. Mr. Pandya said he owned a house in the ocean at Mombasa, which was always sunny and warm, with pleasant sea breezes. A perfect place for Prabhupada to recover his health. Do you know this place? Can you comment on it? Give him the microphone. I had the good fortune of going around there when I was in Kenya, driven by one devotee.
Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada, he stayed in Mombasa for about 3 weeks, recovering his health. And at that time, Brahmanand Swami recalls that Prabhupada told him when the demigods and the demons were fighting, and after the churning of the milk ocean, when the demons were running with the nectar and the demigods were going after them, some drops of nectar fell from the pot, and one of those drops fell in Mombasa.
Oh.
So Brahmanand Swami is saying that Prabhupada told him that this is such a beautiful place, very good for health, and he stayed there 3 weeks to recover his health.
Wow. Thank you for that, Shri Guru Prabhupada. I didn't know that. Anything else you want to say?
Mombasa, yeah, that's about it. He stayed in Mombasa for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Ushil was driving me around there to the places. I went to one temple, they do like kind of astrology there and all kind of things are going on. And Prabhupada stayed on the top somewhere there. Yeah, I went there, yeah. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Anybody would like to comment on anything? Anybody? You'd like to say something? Anybody else would like to add something? I'm just going from one side. I've got a few minutes. You want to say something? Oh, just give it the mic.
Hare Krishna, His Grace, and dear most devotees. I am Madhuri Devi. I come from Mafike. Mafike is very far from here, in the northwest.
Yes, just help her with the mic.
Yes, but
You have
I
to
have a
eat the
loud
mic. You
voice.
have to
I
eat
could
the mic.
speak. I could speak without the mic, or this way,
Yeah, this way.
or closer to my mouth. Hare Krishna. So in Mafike, the people are indigenous. They are Setswana speaking. I'm also a Motswana person, being a devotee. So much of the preaching that I do at funerals. I find it very convenient because that's where you find that people are congregated in large numbers. And any other person would be invited to ascend to the podium to say something. That's when I start teaching about the difference between the body and the soul in Setswana. So that's how my preaching is progressing in Mafike. Then interested people will start following up, calling, visiting me. Then we talk. Then we hold some little class at my place, and I also prepare some prasada. And I offer prasada. Then people become interested because predominantly the people out there are Christian. But they don't understand the concept of thou shalt not kill. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Wow, very good. You're doing good work. You must carry on. We really very nice. Like once I was at the exhibition center, there was the World Conference of, on racism at one time. In all the leaders from all parts of the world came at the Hilton, where the ICC, and somehow me and another devotee, name is he's late now, Madhu Mangal. Me and him got inside there. It was like very well secured, but we were there with Prabhupada's books. We were there at Prabhupada's books, and we were distributing, selling the books to diplomats and things like that. So it's quite interesting. There's two things. One was I took out a book called Chant and Be Happy, and I showed a lady, and she's a diplomat, she's just entering the meeting. And I showed her Prabhupada's picture, and she somehow, when she saw his picture, she said, I think this person will help me. And I said, what's the problem? She said, well, I'm suffering from AIDS. And I said, yeah, then she bought the book and she just went into she just appreciated Prabhupada just by looking at the cover of the book. Chant and Be Happy. And the second thing, there was some radio stations and all that, and they interviewed me for about to the I think Transkai, somewhere like that. And then they interviewed me and were chatting, and it was so interesting. There's thousands and thousands of people were hearing, and I was speaking on the same point. You're not this body, but you're the spirit soul. We are all servants of God, and which Prabhupada preached so much in all his books and his lectures. Thank you for continuing that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Stop. You have to take it from here. The next one. Next paragraph.
Okay, so then we'll put, so you rate this paragraph?
This paragraph, yeah.
You rate this?